Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is David Novak. Today is October 19th, the day after the No Kings protest here in Chicago. I thought I would just talk a little bit about how things went yesterday. My partner and I showed up a little bit early because my Indivisible group, Indivisible Edgewater, had announced that they would be meeting people near the Buckingham Fountain at 11:15. And so that was where we went first. We were a little bit late, so they were just about to march into the main area. And so we went along with the group. There was not a single person that I knew, and I had been hoping to meet some people from my group. It's all been just me receiving emails from them so far. And then we went around here and there, looking at people, taking pictures. The rally, or whatever it's called, hadn't begun yet, so it wasn't super packed. And then we settled down near a pathway as things got going, and meanwhile more and more people were streaming in. I think it was called Butler Field. And at some point my partner went off to take pictures and I stayed there. Usually we stay together, but I was weighted down with stuff, and by this time the crowd had gotten so thick that it would have really been hard for me to keep with her, and I figured she would get the better photos, so she went off. And I stayed and listened to the speakers. As with these sort of events, most of the speakers weren't all that good. There was one guy who said something to the effect, I'm sure it's recorded, our rights don't come from the Constitution, they come from God. Something that you would expect at a Republican convocation, perhaps. But be that as it may, Mayor Brandon Johnson spoke and gave a pretty good speech, even talking about the possible need for a general strike. And at some point I realized that my partner wasn't coming back, so I checked my phone, and she had sent me some kind of a text, and then I texted her and she didn't respond to that. And then at some point I got a call from her. I couldn't hear anything because there was a lot of noise everywhere. And at this point I was starting to get concerned. Unbeknown, I heard that Dick Durbin, our senator, was supposed to be speaking. Never heard him. And unbeknownst to me, but later on, I heard that actually Governor Pritzker was there. I would have liked to have heard him, but I didn't. I'm sure there are videos of it online anyhow. And so the texting didn't seem to be working. So at some point I called my partner, and it was impossible to hear because it was just so loud. And she said something about something where she was at, and it wasn't clear. I couldn't understand. So finally I just said, I'll meet you at the fountain. Now, mind you, the fountain was some way off, but at least she heard that. And so that was where we went. And it was around where she had been. I don't know how she had gotten so far, but people had spread out. I think the fountain is across Jackson Boulevard, and people had spilled out into the street and beyond. So there were a lot more people than when we first showed up. And so instead of going back into the thick of things, we moseyed over to Lakeshore Drive. The street was blocked with a couple of big snow plows and people driving by on Lakeshore Drive. There was nevertheless a whole crowd of people all along the barricades of Lakeshore Drive, and people were driving by and honking. Oh, there was one Trump pickup truck with the big flags that drove by, and they actually seemed to be quite happy about the protest as well. Goodness knows, they seemed a jovial sort, which is not usually what you think of with Trumpers or Republicans. At some point, an ambulance showed up, and I think it wanted to get through, but the trucks were not moving for the ambulance, and the stretcher came down and went between the two trucks, and that was the last we saw of it. Meanwhile, we were milling around on the outskirts, looking at people in the various costumes. I had a encounter with the Incredible Hulk, which kind of was a little bit scary, except he had a hole in his chest which appeared to reveal a smiling face. So I think it was a human figure inside of a giant Hulk suit. Then we went back into the thick of things a little bit. And then at some point, it must be around 1:30 or so, I think the marching was supposed to start at 1, indication was made that we were all to move southward, so we began to move southward. And then nothing happened for at least an hour. We couldn't move. We were all jammed together underneath the trees. If you see an aerial photo, you'll see that there are trees surrounding the park where people had congregated. And so we were under the trees for at least an hour, probably more. And at some point, some guy next to us showed us on his phone that the march had already gotten somewhere on Michigan Avenue. I mean, and we hadn't even moved. And finally, we started moving and got out to the streets. And by that point in time, I think we decided to break away. So when you see the big, long, streaming marches, you won't see myself or my partner there. We broke off and went actually to a little coffee shop that happened to be right across from, I think it's Sandmeyer's bookstore. It's a bookstore of long standing in Chicago. I think it was established in 1980 or something like that, right in sort of the heart of Printers Row. I'd never been there before and went inside. It was a delightful shop. If we get some of these photos up and I can post them, I'll post the inside of, well, I didn't really take anything except the row of banned books with big danger signs underneath them. And eventually we went on. We had an event to go to downtown, so we went and changed our clothes and then went to another coffee shop and came home kind of late. But it was a very invigorating sort of day. There were no signs of any kind of anti-fascist protesters, nobody attempting to stir things up or rabble rouse, and just a very fun time, really. The introduction of people in these costumes really added a note of levity to the entire proceedings. And we will see where it gets to. I hope you went out and had a good time. I'm waiting to hear the counts. I notice that some of the video that you see posted by the mainstream news media, seems to have been taken earlier in the afternoon before a lot of people had shown up. But I know there are some showing the entire stream marching down. I think Michigan Avenue it was, and I am looking forward to hearing a total body count. I mean, the report said thousands. It was more than thousands. I'm sure of that. And so we must keep pressing on. Thanks for stopping by my channel.